this is what I've already told you about measuring empowerment. Now, these are forms of aggregation. In this particular case, it was violence against women. And this was from 800 focus groups. But the focus groups were very open-ended, so there was an element of judgment in aggregation. There was a big dispute because, and again, this is to do with mindsets. You see, it's so interesting. The person who, this was a thing called Voices of the Poor, which was, I mean, that's what it came to be known, which was a major study in 23 different countries, 800 focus groups, God knows how many communities. And we were involved in IDS and the World Bank. Mira Shah was responsible for a lot of the training. She's an absolutely brilliant trainer and facilitator. And she then analyzed the results. In the World Bank, they were convinced that violence against women was increasing. No one disputed its seriousness, but they said it's increasing. It's kind of, I've written about this, so it's kind of on the record anyway. We went to the World Bank for just before Wolfenson was going to make his annual speech, and they'd written into his speech that violence against women was increasing because this was the common belief. Mira, having done this analysis, came to the conclusion it was not increasing overall. Yes, it was increasing in some places. Yes, it was very serious, but not actually increasing. And so there was a debate and discussion, but it was too late. It was in Wolfenson's speech. So Wolfenson said violence against women was increasing. However, there was still a dispute. And the data were analyzed 5 times altogether. And Mira was vindicated. But that was difficult. It was partly because the focus groups were not standardized. In this case, and do look at the sort of the fine print here. In this case, which is Caroline Moser and Kathy McIlwain, and their work in the Caribbean and in Latin America, they were concerned with violence and the proportions of different sorts of violence as people perceived them. And they did this with over 100 focus groups. But they had a degree of standardization of categories. I don't know their methodology, but probably they did some trials first to identify the categories, and then they standardized the categories in the focus groups so that they could be aggregated. And these are the aggregations here. And what is so startling here is the way in which the common perception of officials and others who were not living in communities was, how wrong it was. It was widely believed that gang violence was what really threatened people, what they call political violence. It wasn't at all. What people were really concerned about and what they found was very, very prevalent was violence against the person, mugging and things like that. Far more significant for people. But this was a big, big switch for the mindsets of officials and others in recognizing that it was that sort of violence that was the priority and not the political violence of gang warfare. So do look at the small detail here. And then, maybe this is the last to look at. This is called the 10 seed technique. And it's really, really striking. It will take me time to find the overhead, so I won't show you the overhead. But in this case, this is quantifying the qualitative with knobs on. It really is a very, very powerful example. I'll just tell you what they did. They had a separate group of women and a separate group of men. And they identified roles which had got gender dimensions to them. So I'll just read them out. Agriculture, home-related, credit-related, cattle-related, education, purchase of assets, marriage of children, marketing and selling. And they asked them, if you allocate these between men and women and the relative significance of their roles 10 years ago, allocate 10 seats between the men and the women. And then do the same thing for now. And so they did this. And when the men and the women came together, there was a lot of argument, as you can imagine. But they came to some sort of consensus. And this is the consensus that they came to. And what it shows is, over 10 years, a dramatic change in gender roles. And in women becoming, doing more, which has maybe got positive or negative aspects, I don't know. But without being judgmental about it one way or the other, showing that there had been a great deal of change and that women had more responsibility and more say than they had had before. So this is a very, very neat example of generating numbers about something which is qualitative. And imagine trying to do this with a questionnaire. Yeah, you could. You could try with a questionnaire, but I very much doubt, personally, but you have your own judgment, whether what you came up with would have the credibility that this does. Credibility is a very important criterion and a very important asset, I think, of many of these participatory processes. Providing no one person is dominating, or no group is dominating. And that's where the facilitation becomes really significant. Okay, well look, we've got through quite a lot so far. It's been an awful lot of you talking. When we come back, we'll go straight into doing some participatory mapping, providing I can find the seeds, but I think I can. I think I can find them. And while we have the group, the break, if you want to look at any of these, I'm embarrassed that these are books by me. It wasn't my idea. But these ones, this, who counts? There are 3 copies of this, so if you want to look at it, 3 people can look at it at the same time. This has got case studies of using participatory approaches and methods. This is, this I won't apologise for. This is called Paradigm Poverty and Adaptive Pluralism, and this has got the paradigm stuff if you want it, and you can download that. This is Are We Targeting the Poor? Lessons from the Nile. A very, very nice example of finding out who was benefiting from the program using a participatory approach. Well-being ranking. This has just been published. It's a collection of papers about well-being ranking. This is work in progress. It's by Tessa Lewin, who's a fellow here. Digital Storytelling Handbook. And then over here, underneath here, is this, which is Participatory Impact Assessment. I strongly recommend this. It comes from the Feinstein Center. It's based on work with pastoralists in East Africa. The participatory impact assessment, including a discussion of concepts of rigor. And these are some examples of it over here. You can download this. It's so much nicer in color, but it's bloody expensive. But even if you have it in black and white, you can see everything in black and white pretty well. But it's lovely if it's in colour, as you can see from looking at the picture. So that's your choice. Or you could, if you're really skillful, you can download certain bits in colour and not others. If you really want to follow that. But I'm leaving it there because that refers to this, and this has got some before and after stuff as well, which is here. So there's that, and then on that table are various handouts. And if you want a copy of the handout, please put a cross on the postage, and then we'll photocopy that one. Is that all right? And so it's 11:05. How long would you like? I mean, you know, there's no rush if you want to do people and so forth. What do you think, 20 past?
Yeah, 20 past, yeah.
How do you feel? That wasn't very participatory. No, seriously, I mean, you know, who would prefer half past?
20 past.
20 past is fine. Okay, we'll go for 20 past.
And if you need to avoid it,
Go on.
Bathroom, you're outside, take a right and a left.